Welcome to Champion Your Culture, the podcast, a weekly live show where we explore the power of culture and leadership in business. I'm Ryan McCarty.
And I'm George Rogers, and we go live every week to learn from each other and hear from other experts about how to effectively champion our team members and ourselves. So join us live every Wednesday on our social networks or subscribe. You can listen to Apple, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. Now, let's champion your culture.
What's up, George? How you doing?
What's up?
We are back. We took last week off, man. We had a live show as a pre-record, but this week we're back. I'm so glad to be back. We're on a little bit of a high because of the Culture Champion certification, but I'm excited about today, man. How you been?
I'm doing good. Yeah, last week was incredible. We've had several of these cohorts, and each group is special, unique. There's challenges with each one, but this one was one of the it's one of those things that you go to a concert or songs, music. Everybody relates to music, and you're listening to music. And you're like, oh, this is my favorite one. Oh, this is my oh, I like this song. This is a good song. Every song is a good song if you're around your family and friends and you're just vibing. But this cohort was really, really special. We had a group of people, and they brought a lot of life to a lot of energy. They were determined. And so I'm excited about their journey, their next steps as they take back, this culture movement to their workplace and really, champion their culture within their organizations. And so I'm excited about the testimonies that come out of the impact that it does for the business, as well as the people.
Yeah, and you got a lot going on. This week is packing week for you, right?
Yeah, we're packing.
Everybody out there that's watching and listening, wherever you get your podcast, thank you so much for joining us today. George is in packing mode, moving mode. You're coming back to the great state of Indiana, the crossroads of America. Definitely.
And shout out to those people who did not know. Hey, we're breaking news.
That Indiana was the crossroads of America. There's people that
Indiana was the crossroads of America, and I was just trying to slide in. To be honest, for those who are supporting the podcast, I appreciate you, and we want to share this moment with you. The Rodgers are coming home. Ryan misses me too much. There's just a vibe. We were thinking we got new studio stuff going on. And, we have a lot of different projects. We got some companies and organizations that we're actually going to be boots on the ground with some leadership development within their organizations over the next 6 to 12 months, some of them for a few years. And so we got a lot of things going on with our team. Our team is growing, and there's a lot of excitement. And so, the Rodgers are sliding through. The real funny part, Ryan, is that I was trying to really for anybody that doesn't listen to this podcast, is still going to work. I'm just going to show up to Indiana. I wasn't going to tell anybody. I was just going to start living there, because I'm there anyway every other week, or I'm there, 6 or 7 days out of the month already. I was just going to kind of vibe. So for those who are, for those who are supporting the podcast, George is coming home. I'm going to be rocking it back in Indiana. I'm excited to see, in Nashville, there's no basketball, and so to be back home, be able to, see the Pacers. Be there. Obviously, here in Nashville, there's the Tennessee Titans, but it's kind of like a weird relationship. I love football. Yeah. I go to the games, but it's like, I don't like you. I can't.
You can't like the Titans if you've ever lived in Indiana.
So I always wear blue, but I wear a casual shirt, but underneath my shirt, it's a Colts shirt. Because I got to support the home team no matter what. My first love is Ohio State. I'm a Buckeye through and through. But, it's like I got to cheer for the home team. I can't just come out here and support anything.
I get it.
You see, George, how you cheering for the home team? You're a Buckeye, man. IU football was not good growing up.
Hey, you're going back. You're coming back to a time where they're about to build a massive soccer stadium, yo. Are you into soccer, football?
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Soccer. They just built a huge soccer stadium here. In Columbus, for I said Columbus. I'm thinking of the hockey team and soccer team there. But they built a soccer team here in Nashville. It's a big thing. The crazy thing is, I've been so busy, I have not been to the new stadium here. Soccer is. I used to go to Indy 11, so I went to a few games. Shout out to Jake, I believe Charles, Ed, they were back in those days. Some guys back in Indiana, the Golfing Bros. I'm excited, man, because I'm excited about a lot of things. Like I never thought, to be honest, I'll be coming home. And some of it is sentimental. Majority of the reason why we're coming home is because of some family. We got family health with our parents and older siblings, and we just want to be closer to them. Obviously, Jason, my friend who passed away in March, we talked a little bit about him on several podcasts, who had 2 kids, and they are very special. Jennifer's is special to me, and so to be there with them, and then I'm happy to be home with family as well, man. Like friends that are family, you that I know. Or not that I don't have it here, but being away from home is business ships, right? It's all this is related around business, and so with a few family, my goddaughters are here in Nashville, so I have Ariana and Aaliyah, CJ, their brother. You know, I got some kids that I love the next generation, and they are special to me. But yeah, it's gonna be good to be back home. But I'm gonna be in chill mode for so long after I move all this stuff. Because I told myself, and listen, I ain't gonna lie. Only thing I packed up so far is like sure done most of it, and this is her move. This is the first time she's ever said, "Hey, this is what I want to do." Yeah. In the 19 years, we've been together, and so I submitted and humble myself and say, you know what, we've moved a lot of places for me. This is a move for her. I honestly thought it was gonna be Florida. Like that was the next move in my mind and in my heart for both of us. And Dexter, like we were like ocean. Like after get some more success, build up family, get Dexter where he wants to be. And when he's all right with moving again, because the kids, we've had him since he was 2 years old, and he's moved from Indiana to Georgia to Tennessee, and now we're going. It's like a full little ship, and we've got a great experience. We got to experience COVID in Georgia. We got to experience post-COVID in Tennessee, and now it's like, all right, now that the Canada fires are out of Indiana, let's go back home.
Oh, it's still nasty here, yo. I was out a couple days ago, and they're like, don't spend a whole lot of time outside, but hopefully it'll all clear up by the time. So, yeah, let the world know Mr. Rogers is coming back to the neighborhood.
I'm there.
Wouldn't you like to be my neighbor? Yes.
I'm there until October, November. Once I start seeing white stuff fall, I haven't seen that in a while. Once I see that snowfall, I may be premeditated about a house that I have in Florida. I may have to just go to a winter house for a few weeks.
Yeah, I'll be there with you too.
Podcast on the road,
for sure.
Hey, if there's any conferences, if there's any organizations that are looking for workshops, leadership development in the Florida, Texas area, Arizona, anytime during November and March, Ryan and I would love to join y'all on site.
Yeah, we'll give you
on the road as well.
Hey, listen, the nicer the weather is, wherever your business is, the more of a discount you get on our workshops.
There we go. Hey, UKG, y'all in Florida. I'm gonna shout out some of these tech companies. I know that we need to get down here.
UKG for sure. Hey, listen, today is really a powerful subject. For those of you that have joined with us, we want to thank Culture of Good always for supporting and sponsoring Champion Your Culture. We come on every week to really give you your weekly dose of culture and leadership and topics around things that impact our everyday work. We don't want to just get on and talk randomly. We're really focused on culture and leadership because we know at the end of the day, everything impacts culture. Culture impacts everything. Same with leadership. They're really you can't separate culture and leadership from each other. They're not mutually exclusive, right? So when we talk about this every week, I just want to give a shout out, George, to everybody that's joining with us and are a part of what we do, because we know that at the end of the day, what we're doing is not just growing business and growing, economy. We're growing people. Yeah. We're investing in human beings that are investing their time, their talent, treasure, and testimony into our organizations. And we're saying, how do we lead people, and how do we do so in a way that creates a culture where everybody can lead, right? So we're leading people, and everyone is leading together. And that is this idea of championing culture. It's really about championing people. But today's topic is really powerful. I love it because I as the show goes live on LinkedIn, it always notifies me. And so getting the notice this morning how we have this topic on the power of a culture plan. You know what I'm saying? Like any type, like you moving to Indiana, what was the plan? If you don't have a plan, guess what happens? It all falls apart, right? Like if you and Amber and Dexter, you didn't get together and talk about the details of this, then guess, your friends wouldn't have been able to come and help Amber pack and so forth. And Jennifer wouldn't be there. Why? Because nothing could have been communicated. There was no plan. Right. So I think a lot of times in business, we want to have successful culture. We know that the profitability of our organization and the progress and performance of our company is tied directly to our culture. We just don't know what to do about that. And for those that don't know what to do about it, if you don't have a plan, then what are you implementing?
Yeah.
Right. And I know this is interesting because we're talking about this right in the middle of the year, but I don't think there's a bad time to start thinking about culture in this way. I don't think we have to say, well, let's wait till the end of the year and then we'll start to put a culture plan together. We're right in the middle of the year, right? We're like 6-7 months in, and we're at a point where we have the opportunity over the next 6 months to impact our organization in a way that is engaging, is inspiring, and it's also effective. But if we don't have a plan to follow, how do we even know? It's just interesting to me. It's interesting to me that if you look at an organization, and I want to give a shout out to Melanie with MB Solutions with coaching and consulting and so forth. Melanie was one of our champions. And Melanie brought up the fact that a lot of times when she's working and they have an entire consulting piece, I'm going to just give a shout out to all of them at People First. They're in Cincinnati, Ohio. Listen, she would bring up that most companies have a plan for damn near everything in their company. They have a financial plan. They have a staffing plan. We have strategies and planning around most of everything in our organization. But when you sit down with leadership teams and ask them, what is your culture plan?
Not existing, right? What is it?
Yeah. Well, what is culture, right? Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, that's why we're getting on every week, is because we know the power of what we're talking about. The power of a culture plan means that we're not running or moving in a direction that we don't know the end result, right? We don't know really what we're working toward. A lot of times there's initiatives and we say, well, let's put initiatives out there. We want to grow engagement. We want to grow our satisfaction scores on the survey because we know if people, score us higher than, but so much of that is so surface level. And just because you say something's an initiative doesn't mean that it is. Every initiative that I've ever worked toward in an organization was able to be accomplished because there was a solid plan and there was strong leadership to lead it. That's the key components to a healthy culture, right? You have to have a plan and you have to have leadership. Those two.
It's that not to cut in, but to cut in, that whole proper planning prevents poor performance. The 5 Ps. That plan is huge because it outlines a lot of things. What a plan does really, and you brought up us moving. What a plan does is really expose who you are and where you are, right, in that process. And so for us moving, we understand like where we are at in this process and like what needs to be done to change to where we want to go, right? Ultimately, the end goal is to have everything packed up to be able to get onto a truck or inside of a car. But what needs to be taking place? What has to be provided? What do we need to get? What do we need to add? Because even in planning, you got to add some things to that process to get to where you want to go, and so that's important as well.
Yeah. I think it's going to be really cool. So let's do this for this podcast because so much of what we're talking about really plays into you moving from Nashville to Indianapolis. If you think about it, every one of our organizations is moving. Yeah. We're all in constant flux. We're constantly changing. Nothing is static, because what we're leading is an organism, not just an organization. So and the larger the organization or organism that you're leading, the greater it is to maneuver and pivot, and it takes greater efforts toward that change. So when we think about change, and some of that change is tumultuous, coming out of the pandemic, dealing with hybrid workforce or remote, or whether we're requiring people to come back into the office. And we talk to people all the time that, now people are making cultural decisions. Leaders are making cultural decisions that aren't tied to a culture plan, because when we don't have a plan, we're left to reactive choices. Most companies and organizations that I've worked with, you as well, George, very culturally reactive. We make decisions to better the culture almost in the moment, rather than thinking of how does this fit into a larger scope. I love the word that you use, like an outline.
Yeah.
How is your culture outlined? What's your culture outline? I love that, because a culture outline you can put into a calendar. That's one of the things I love about Culture of Good, man, because like when we think about like a culture plan, you have to have some form of planning process in order to have a culture plan. Like we can't just, again, a plan isn't just saying, well, here's the initiative, here's the 2 to 3 cultural initiatives for this year, good luck. And then we just, Google, how do I build, engagement? Yeah. It needs to be a part of a larger comprehensive outline that's full of like quarterly touch points and milestones, so that we can go from being reactive and even go from being proactive, but actually being as proactive as we can, so that when the wave hits, we can ride the wave. You know what I'm saying? We can be prepared. It's not that every moment of your move from Nashville to Indianapolis is going to go according to plan. It's just that when things happen not according to plan, we know that we have a plan to go back to. See, that's the key. It becomes this guide or map that allows us to be able to say, okay, I got off course a little bit, or we got off course. How do we get back to our values? How do we get back to our mission? When I think about a culture plan, it starts by asking great questions. Mm-hmm. The first one is, do we have one?
Yeah, you said a lot. When I think about this culture plan, and we talked about this a lot, and you did shout out Melanie and her team that came down. One of the things I love about what they brought, Melanie is a huge gamer, and so the way while we were with our cohort, watching her like body expressions, like seeing her brain, that gamer mode, like how does this work with the development of a game? She has a culture game that she created about 3 years ago, I believe in 2020. Similar to like Apples on Apples, it's like cards for culture and recruitment. And it really helps people define those things. And when I think about this plan that we've been talking about, Ryan, I think about in the organizations and the businesses that we've helped just recently and we're working with, some of the things that we truly try to define in the beginning, and you mentioned it, is defining your values, right? Like clearly articulating the values that would eventually guide you and your organization's culture. Like for us with TCC, it's the 5 promises. Those 5 promises really guide the organization's culture. And these values are aligned, and it should be with any company. It should be aligned with your company's like purpose and mission, like your what and your why. What's your purpose? What's your mission? The other thing that when I think about this plan, and this is like fresh for us, is because we're assessing the current culture. Like, what is the current culture? And we define it as a reminder how employees feel, believe, and behave most of the time. Where's your culture now? When I think about this, uh, we've been on this, me and Dexter, and you had opportunity. Dexter's in this joking, like he's got these dad jokes, and I am so proud. I'm so proud that he's coming up with some corny jokes, and it just brings a smile to my face. He's so passionate about it too. He thinks these things through, where he's trying to come up with his own. He's taking something that he hears and he's trying to make it his own.
Yeah,
and add to it. But we start talking about, all right, when things don't go our way, he's getting a little frustrated. He's developing these feelings and emotions, like he's coming into himself. And one of the things that I stop him from doing, like whether it's good, fun dad joke moments, or where we're serious, or he's frustrated, or he's experiencing a negative experience, maybe with a friend or Minecraft, for God forbid. I always say, hey, let's pull out the house thermostat. Let's pull out the mood thermostat, and let's gauge the temperature right now, right? Cultures have to assess their culture. Like you either setting the thermometer or the thermostat. Like, how are we setting the culture right now? What's the temperature? And really do an evaluation of the existing workplace culture to really identify those strengths and those areas of improvements. Why is a certain department feeling great, but the other department is really struggling? How does leadership then impact those things? And then setting goals and expectations around those is so important as well, to be able to, whether it's a SMART. I know a lot of companies use the SMART, where there's specific, measurables, achievable, relevant, and time-bound, type goals. Or are you saying, and we got some things, and I don't want to blurt it out because I know it's a podcast coming soon, but we have 4 little key principles that we believe leaders and managers should really kind of gauge around that as well. So you putting that plan into place, really setting those values, assessing where your culture is, really establishing goals and expectations, and make sure those are clear, because before you can create strategies, you must first have clear expectations and communication within your organization.
Well, you don't know what you're strategizing toward, right?
Yep.
So I've got a list of several questions to ask ourselves, our team, that I want to go through. Before we do, I want to take a real quick break and share the craziest shit in HR, obviously brought to you as every week by Culture of Good. This is the craziest shit in HR. All right, so I don't know why I still feel like a 12-year-old kid every time I hear a fart noise. It brings a smile on my face, unless it's a real one. Isn't that interesting? As long as it's just the noise. A fart heard is a smile. A fart smelled is a frown. So two craziest things at HR. Make sure the anonymous surveys stay anonymous. HR sent out an anonymous survey in a doc file by email, and we should have replied back and filled in the blanks is what they required. We figured out it's not really anonymous, as who sent it would literally be written in from, right? Because you'd send it back. So we filled the forms on the same machine and sent them all back in a single email. And HR was like, wait, you can't do that. By anonymous, I meant I will not tell the boss and just aggregate data for them. Can't say that inspired lots of trust. So yeah, I mean, think about it, right? If we're saying there's anonymous surveys, we need to actually do that.
Yeah.
One more story. All right. No feces stories today. Thank God. This is another crazy story in HR. HR tried to downgrade employees' reviews to avoid giving raises. HR ordered me to downgrade my 3 excellent employee reviews to satisfactory because management didn't recognize their names. I got written up for telling my employees this. HR denied that they told me anything, even though I had the emails from them documenting it. Totally worth it. My employees were excellent and got the raises they deserved. So that's a whole thing. And that, my friends, is crazy shit in HR. Yeah. So for real, yo, like I was at a coffee shop. I think I mentioned this a few weeks ago, and this consultant was talking to this business owner, and the business owner is like, how do we get our satisfaction survey scores up? And literally the consultant said, you need to remove the question, do you come to work every day and love your job? Like, yeah, sure. That's the way to increase the satisfaction score. So so that's the craziest shit in HR. George, how do we build a culture plan? What are the elements that we need to consider? Because when I'm thinking about a culture plan, we have like this, right? Culture playbook. So this culture playbook is what you get as a guide to follow through the entire process of building a culture of good. There's charting, there's everything you need in terms of phases. So it phases it out. One of the things I think is really important in the process as we've built our culture plan, and this is a culture plan that's replicable in any organization. So if you're sitting back saying, I need a culture plan, the plan itself can create the framework. So you can utilize a playbook and identify a plan based on just following a playbook, right? So we've taken the guesswork out of the process of building culture. And then tying that, as you mentioned, back to your values, back to the mission of the organization. Why are we in business in the first place, right? The main rule of business, stay in business, right? And know why you're in business. Yeah. So that key component of knowing why you do what you do comes from a lot of this work. So a lot of times we think, well, we need to start with why, and we don't teach that here. We say start with what. What are you doing? And then discover why you're doing it and find the alignment. Discover the purpose and the impact that it can have on key stakeholders and really all your stakeholders within the organization. So several questions. What is our mission? Starting there, right? What is our stated mission? Not just something that was said years ago, but what are we saying as part of our narrative as to why we're in business? What is our overall mission? And I would encourage you to ask the question, how does that mission tell the story of our culture? Because if your culture and your mission aren't tied together, we need to start there. So we're looking at what you mentioned, values, mission, purpose, everything that's stated that we say we prioritize, and that's at top of our list of things that matter most to us. How are those values, principles? How is your mission, your purpose? How is that feeding into the culture, and how is it helping to build and drive your cultural effort? So we're looking at the tie-in, we're looking for the alignment, but we're starting with what is our mission? What does it say about our culture? What are our values? What does that say about our culture? Are values just a list on a wall? Are we living them out? Are they written on the hearts and minds of people? If not, we need to start there. We can't say we're building culture if people don't even know what the values are. How many times have we heard, nobody knows the values? Nobody knows the values. I'm like, what the hell you got values for, right? So we have to start it like laying the foundation or planting the seed, or however you want to have whatever metaphor you want to, you have to start somewhere. Starting small within your culture plan and saying, what is our mission, purpose, and values? And then asking, what are our business goals? Because if your culture is not tied to your strategic intent, if your culture doesn't feed your goals, what are your business goals? What is your intent for the year? What are your objectives? And how is your culture aligning with those goals? So the first thing we're doing in terms of a culture plan, we're saying, how are we building alignment? And the way that we do that is asking the next question, not just what is our mission, what is our vision, values. I didn't mention vision, but like vision, mission, I think could be primarily the same thing. Mission could be a little more specific to the actual mission, short-term visions, long-term. But when we think about it, we think about mission, vision, values, purpose, all of those things, alignment. Then we say, what are our business goals? Those have already been set. Hopefully we can find cultural alignment to that. And who are our stakeholders, right? That's a key, George. And you can speak to this a little bit. Identifying key stakeholder groups all the way from owners throughout the organization to say, okay, everybody's going to be interacting and have a different relationship with the culture, a different expectation in terms of contribution. So identifying who our stakeholder groups are, including all the way through the organization and customers and the community, is a key component to identifying at the very beginning. We can't plan unless we know who we're planning with.
Yeah. That's the key. Who is this affecting, right? And typically it's stakeholders from top all the way down to your frontline people. I hate the word lower level or whatnot. So we always say frontline just because they are more than just lower level people. They're on the front line. They're doing the job. They're boots on the ground. They're doing the hard work. And so whenever I think about those, you see how it affects. And so within our culture champion, you think about those from a CEO, you think about investors. If your company or organization has investors, been a part of that, right? All the way down to your managers, your directors, those who are in leadership, with those then directly tied to those who are connected to the frontline employees. And even within those frontline employees, you have storytellers, right? You got people who are telling your story that are talking about what you do, who you are, why you're doing what you're doing. And we always say this, Ryan, and it is something that's kind of been it's a seed that you planted in my heart and my mind, is that good is good, right? It's good to do good, right? But there's got to be a purpose of why you're doing it. You can't do good to be seen, but it's always good to be seen doing good. I probably butchered that and didn't say it as good as you did, but there's a lot of good within that good.
Yeah. It's like doing good better, right? It's identifying those key stakeholders. So when you're thinking about the culture plan, you think, all right, who are the key stakeholders? And this is before we even talk about what our ideal culture is. This is all work that's laying the groundwork for a comprehensive culture plan, because when we start to build out the plan, we want to have these things considered, right?
Yeah.
So we're not even in yet the culture planning stage, but what we would say is, if we can tie our efforts before we even begin to plan, our efforts toward the mission, vision, values. Now, is that part of the planning? Yes. But in terms of where the culture plan as an outline begins to be written out, what we would suggest at Culture of Good, and what our playbook, which is really, again, can be used in any organization. This is something that comes with our certification today, which we just had and mentioned about earlier. But along with that, thinking about, all right, how do we begin to outline this in a way that creates a comprehensive, clear pattern or a pathway for what we see as our ideal culture? So we do a whole workshop with storytelling. There's many ways that you can get to this. Hire, outside consultants or coaches and trainers like ourselves, or if you have someone internally that can facilitate this, there's many ways to visualize and paint a picture of the future and what type of culture is the ideal culture, and being able to storytell that out and lay that out in a comprehensive way, so that when you come to a place where you, your team, your key stakeholders as a collective can agree on, this is the ideal culture, this is what we see as the future of our organization. Maybe you love your culture. It doesn't mean that you have a bad culture. It just means, how do we now create a plan that everybody can get behind? How do we create a plan that everybody can support? It's taking all of your ideal culture picture and the vision that's on the front of that puzzle box, and opening up the box and saying, okay, now we have all these pieces. The plan is, where do these pieces fit into quarter one, quarter two, quarter three, quarter four? In the same way that you would plan out everything else, as you mentioned, the SMART goals, setting communication plans, as you would any other initiative. So how do initiatives how are initiatives planned out, communicated, and rolled out to gain buy-in and contribution from the majority of stakeholders in the organization? Because if you don't know how to do that, then this idea of building a culture plan can actually impact all the other planning in your organization. It's reverse engineering. It's taking the big picture and saying, all right, we're not there yet, but what are the elements we already have, and how do we fit that into a quarterly re-engagement to structure this out and create a framework that people can follow, contribute toward. There's time involved. People know how to impact or to contribute toward it. So those key stakeholders and having a plan, and then starting your actual, like, here's where we're headed, getting that full picture of an ideal culture, I think at the very beginning of a plan is important, because how do we know what we're planning toward?
Yeah. Direction, not
intention, determines destination. That's a quote by Andy Stanley. Direction, not intention, determines destination. Yeah. You don't get to where you're going because you intend to. Yep. You get to where you're going because you direct your life that way. You direct your organization that way. For you to get to your ideal culture means that you've directed your organization and you've directed your people in that way, so that when you arrive, you've come to a place where you say, okay, and again, there's no such thing as a perfect culture, but yours doesn't have to suck, right? So when we're in that direction and we're leading people, how do we know where we're leading them? I would say it this way: a leader without a plan is just a person taking a walk.
Yeah.
So if you want to follow someone just taking a walk aimlessly, follow a leader without a plan. As a matter of fact, I would encourage you, if this is something that's important to you, to go to your leader, supervisor, someone that's maybe not in frontline. Maybe they're a frontline leader, not frontline management. Maybe they're a supervisor, and ask them, all right, what's the culture plan?
Yeah.
Start asking your CEO, start asking the owner, start asking the board, start asking your peers, start asking people, start walking around. Hey, what's the culture plan? You know what I'm saying?
We're seeing this, Ryan. We're seeing this even in the data and the research, especially how people are behaving, right? When we talk about how people feel, believe, and behave, we take that into consideration. People are making the decision whether or not they're going to stay with a company within 3 days. They're not even giving it 2 weeks, right? They're not even giving it the 90-day evaluation. People know within a week's time whether or not they're going to stay with the company or I'm going to keep on looking.
And that's data from Lighthouse Research.
And that's data from Lighthouse Research and Advisory. And what this is telling us is that leadership, that we've opened up our eyes over the last couple of years. We've opened up our eyes to a few things. How do we value ourselves and our time and our peace, right? Mental health. How do we value those things have become a forefront, right, for most people. And so people are saying, like, if I don't want to be around something that's not going to create a place of belonging, that's not going to connect and help me grow. Because if you're not going to help me grow, and this is another stat where employees are saying this, they're saying if there's no growth plan to this organization that I'm joining, if you don't have a growth plan, I'm coming in here with this title, but this is where I desire to be. If you don't help me get to that place, then I want more compensation. And so they're no longer saying, all right, I'm going to take this and I want to grow. They're saying, listen, if you're not going to help grow me, you're going to have to show me, right? Show me the money, because I'm not going to stay in a place and be devalued for what I'm bringing to the table. Yes. So we see this a lot where these people are, they know, right? They know 54% of the people right now today in this research, this peace study that we've done with Lighthouse Research and Advisory. Shout out to Ben, shout out to Joe, our team over there, Jackie, everybody with Lighthouse Research and Advisory. 54% of employees say they're happy right now. They're happy. They don't have a desire. They're not thinking about leaving. You know what the other people are thinking about doing? Within the next 6 months, they're already looking for a job.
Oh, they're
already looking for a job, right? Yeah. And so people know where they want to be, who they want to be around. And so, yes, when it comes to when you join an organization, what are some of the top questions you should ask? What are your strategies, right? For me, things that come up is like, I want to know what your culture strategy plan is. What does that look like? What does it look like for me? How do I connect? How do the leaderships lead? Right. The other thing is, what is your D&I strategy? We have marketing strategies, we have business strategies, but what are the other strategies that look like people like me, for people of color? How do we have a sense of belonging? How do we have a sense of growth and development? How do we, what does that look like? And so those are important questions, especially for those people of color when it comes to D&I, is that they want to know some of those key components, especially pay.
Yeah. I mean, this is, if you don't have a culture plan, so this is good, because I mean, let's talk about that. You know, when we talk about having a plan and having leadership to lead it, you know, to your point, this is going to be the impactor for who you hire. To your point, right? The quality of the candidate. I would, you know, somebody was asking me one time, they said, Ryan, I was at a conference. It was right before I got on stage. I was sitting at the table, and they said, how do we attract, they said, how do we find great talent? And I said, you don't. Great talent finds you.
Yep.
You know why? Is because when you think about it, great talent, great employees are looking for companies that have growth plans. They have strategies, they have planning around their culture. You know, I always encourage people when they're networking and looking for potential employers or, you know, places to work. I always encourage them to ask the questions that you're asking. What is your culture plan? Right? Describe your culture, and not just ask the person interviewing you. Interview them back, but also interview some of the employees. Get on LinkedIn, talk to people. Right? Tell me about the culture. You know, is it the values on the wall? Are we living it here? And again, everybody will have a negative something to say about a company. There's no such thing as a perfect culture. So I'm not suggesting that when you go to look for a job that you should look for something that has every single person in the company is like, our culture is perfect. It's great. We don't have any issues. I want honesty, right? A great culture also affords people freedom of being able to say, hey, this is where we have some issues, but we're working on it. Here's what we're doing about it.
Yeah.
That's good, right? That's a healthy culture. A healthy culture is not a culture where everybody's saying it's great.
Yeah.
A healthy culture is a culture where people say it's good, but we got some work. That's why when we think about, people are always like, why didn't you call your company a culture of great? I'm like, because I've not yet met one. The best we can do is a good culture. Yeah. And we're doing better because we have a plan. And that to me, that's the kind of company I want to work for. I want to work for a company that has some self-awareness around their culture, but also has a plan to get better.
Yeah. I think it's important that people understand that greatness is really hard to achieve when it comes to people, right? Culture is us. Culture is you and I. And the thing that changes about you and I daily and sometimes hourly is our mood, our emotions, like our focus. And so being vulnerable enough to say, you know what, our culture is good. It's okay. It's all right, man. It sucks. Like, it's okay to admit those things as long as you have that plan that's going to proceed with, hey, this is how we're going to change it. This is how we're going to be and there for each other to help guide this through. Because I know a lot about, you know, workplace culture failures, right? We can talk about what goes wrong, right? We can say number one reason why most culture fails is the lack of leadership commitment, right? And it starts with, hey, the manager wants to do this. The manager wants to make culture, but if the CEO is not all in, right, then it's not going to be great. It's not going to proceed with goodness. It's not going to, the leadership plays a crucial role in shaping, maintaining a positive workplace culture. You know, other thing that we know that does not work well when trying to create a culture of good is poor communication, right? You got to have effective communication. That's the opposite of a failing culture. Poor communication. It's essential to have good communication when you're trying to thrive in a workplace, when you're trying to grow a good culture, when you're trying to grow people. Communication that lacks communication, that's ineffective. Right, you're saying some stuff, but I don't really feel what you're saying. We
Yeah.
a lot, right? A lot of stuff is coming out of your mouth, but it makes no sense to me. How are you leading? Right? It can lead to misunderstanding when you're saying a bunch of gibberish stuff, and there's a lack of connection to that. Another thing is that the resistance to change, and we see this in organizations that change a lot, right? There's always some type of new program, some type of new movement, and it all dies down. The energy fails. And so whenever you try to do something that's really good, people are going to be like, you know what? Their behavior is inconsistent because your strategy, your process to get to where you want to go have been very inconsistent. And when you have inconsistency, you have a lack of trust. And where you have a lack of trust, there's a disconnection to anything that you really truly want to change. That then leads to the lack of employee engagement. And employees want to be engaged, but if you really want to have culture of good, Ryan, it goes from engagement to what?
Effectiveness.
Effectiveness.
Yeah, I mean, you have to have effective leadership and you have to have a clear plan.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, I was writing notes yesterday. I was just writing down things that are becoming more and more apparent to me 10 years into this specific cultural work with organizations that need a plan and need a process. That the two things is effective leadership and a clear plan. Not just a plan, but a clear one. And effective leadership, which means, we always, we talk about, to your point, leading people through change. That's the way we do it. We have to have effective leadership and we have to have a clear plan. Not just a plan that the executive team knows. That's not a plan. A culture plan is a plan that everybody knows. A culture plan is not a plan that just the CEO knows or just the HR department knows. That's not a culture plan.
Yeah.
To your point, if it's not communicated to every stakeholder, frontline employees, all the way through every layer of leadership in the organization, then what you have is a culture initiative. Unless it's communicated to everyone and as many people, again, when I say everyone, that means as many as possible, because culture is as many people feeling, believing, behaving most of the time. So we need as many people aware, having a desire. That's the ADKAR process of engagement that we talk about, those principles of organizational change management. They need to be aware of what's going on, but also along with that, if we don't have a plan, then the organization itself as a whole is run on initiatives. Initiatives are the equivalent in an organization. Initiatives in an organization is the equivalent of intentions in your personal life. So if you lead your life intentionally, just by intention and not direction, then what happens is you're left again by just 3 months in. All right, we're 6 months in. Where are we at with our engagement? All right, what are we going to do about that? What do you mean what we're going to do about that? We already decided what we're going to do about that. We have a plan. If you're just trying to figure out what you're going to do about that, that means either your plan didn't work, it needs to be pivoted, or you didn't have a plan in the first place.
Right.
So if you don't have a plan, reach out to us, because we can help with that through coaching. We can do a workshop with your team. We can do that in person, virtual. I have people reach out to me all the time. They have a leadership luncheon or leadership retreat. I have several of those coming up where we just go in and share for 2 to 3 hours, or whatever time is allotted, where we can workshop this out, dream together, have the ideal culture, and then talk about how do we begin to implement this in a way that's structured, that provides framework that people can implement. Because at the end of the day, what are you implementing? You can't implement initiatives, man. You have to implement a plan.
Yeah.
I'm fired up about it, man. That's my soapbox today, yo. Stop talking about what you want to do and talk about what you're doing. That's what we need. We need that. We need an action plan. Action Jackson. We need an action plan, yo. We need something that's like hyped up on Mountain Dew. You know what I'm saying? We need something that's ready to move. You know what I mean? We don't need some worn out, lazy, tired, old way of doing business. We want something that's fresh, but also that continues to embed and grow and make the culture sustainable and solid for the future. I mean, ultimately what we're doing is we're building something that we're all proud of in our businesses. And I think that's something that we should always want to enhance and grow. So culture planning, there's power behind it, brother.
That's true.
There's power behind it.
That is true. Hey, we appreciate everybody as always for joining us this week on Champion Your Culture, sponsored by Culture of Good. We appreciate everybody, our Culture of Good team, and those behind the scenes that help support us with our podcast as well. Thank you. You are a supporter. If you're watching, if you're listening to us, whether it's live or later on your own choice of platform, we appreciate you taking the time out, listening to us, and joining us every week. If you have not, please like, subscribe, share the notification button, share with your friends and family if there's some content that you believe is valuable. Let's grow our network. Let's grow our team, our culture out there. And if you're looking for somebody to come and keynote speak at your event, Ryan and I, we're going on the road together. I'm excited over the next couple of months to do co-keynotes, as well as some workshops with organizations and champion people through our leadership coaching as well. And so we appreciate everybody for the support here this week on Champion Your Culture. As always, we appreciate you.
And we will see you back. Will we? Yeah, we'll see you back next week.
Hey, Ryan, I'm coming to see you next. We're coming live together next Wednesday, baby. I'm coming to the studio.
Like for real?
It's what we do. It's for real. I'm coming up. You know, I'm a sneak in early next week. We got some meetings. We got some things going on with some of our clients. So I'll be there, and let's do it live together next week in the studio, Indiana, baby.
Yeah, man. All right, that's going to be fun. Mr. Rogers in the neighborhood next week. We'll see you back next week on Champion Your Culture.
Hi, friends. Thanks for joining us on Champion Your Culture podcast today.
We're so excited that you're here and want to invite you to connect with us. You can watch the show weekly on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, or LinkedIn, and listen anywhere you get podcasts.
Subscribe today to get new relevant content each week on how to champion yourself and your team. Thanks again for listening to Champion